Hello, beautiful people. I hope that wherever you are in the world, that you are doing well and that you are taking care of yourselves. I'm Chris Danker, and this is Let the Adventure Begin. Let the Adventure Begin with Chris Danker podcast. Hey, before I get started with this week's episode, I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciated the comments and feedback over last week's episode where I talked about the fact that I am a middle school counselor and last week was National School Counseling Week. A lot of people didn't realize that what I all do as a school counselor. And so I feel like that was eye-opening for some people, and the amount of appreciation that was shown it just made me feel good, first of all. But if you missed that episode and want to go back and listen to it, feel free to do so. I kind of give you the ins and outs and what I do and how that differs from a couple of other closely related occupations that sometimes people think that because of them that anyone can be a school counselor, and I dispel that myth for sure. So go back and give that a listen. But moving on into episode 133, before I get into it, in episode 131, I talked about or posed the question, what is enough for me? And I'd love for you to go back and listen to that one because this one kind of piggybacks off that. It was about, budgeting and money and how I have always had a love-hate relationship with it. And so I just wanted to spend some time this week talking about money in a different way. I found this quote, and actually my son has talked about this quote before, and I found out who it was attributed to. Anna LaPay, who is an author and activist, said, "Every time you spend money, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want." That has become even more apparent to me in today's political climate. And I really didn't pay a lot of attention to, yes, I paid attention to what I bought, but I didn't really dig into the weeds of companies and did they really align with my values and who I stand for and what I stand for. And so I've started to think about this quote more. And like I said, my son and I have had some discussions about this topic. And again, every time we spend our money, it is, that's the company behind it, politically, whether we want to think about that part or not, it goes into their pockets, those profits. And is that a company that you want to support? Does that align with your values and, what you, and what's important to you? So we have a lot of power in how we spend our money. So, kind of to recap the big picture for me, one of the things that I want to be able to do, because I am 2.5 years from being able to retire from education, and I have yet to decide if I'm going to do so, but I'm leaning that direction. However, there's some debt that I want to make sure I have paid off, as well as increase my savings, increase my investment opportunities. So I have some extend pay plans on my two of my credit cards, and I want all of that paid off by December of this year. So not adding to that amount and chipping away so that is paid off by the end of this year. And then I have some Student Parent Plus loans that I took out for both of our kids, and I want those paid off by December of 2026. Because then my intent, like I said, is to retire in 2.5 years, which would be May of 2027. So then all of my debt would be paid off. And like I said, it wouldn't be just the debt paid off, but I also have a savings plan and an investment plan that, I'll talk about at a different time, maybe in episode 134. So that is, where I'm at. And I talked about in episode 131 about a spreadsheet. And I have tried different ways of budgeting and trying to see, how I'm spending my money. And for those of us, at least for me in education, I get paid once a month. And so it's always been very hard for me to see that whole month. And that's how I was doing a spreadsheet. And what I've decided to do, which has broken it down week by week, and I go from the 15th of one month, which is when I get paid in the middle of the month, to the 15th of the next month. So that split months is also kind of tricky. But I did 1 week at a time, week 1, 2, 3, and 4, and what bills come out in each week. And so that has helped me narrow the focus down so that I'm just seeing that spending and the bills and whatnot. And my biggest problem is not the bills themselves. It's making sure that I don't accumulate more credit card debt, which I have been prone to do in the past by overspending, and making sure that the amount of money that I have set aside for groceries and anything extra, that I stay within that limit. And like I said, that has always been tough for me. It's always been a challenge. So some of the changes that I've decided to make with my spending, because of the world that I want to live in that aligns more with me, is that my three main places for spending for like grocery types of items and self-care will come from Costco. We have a Costco. We are very fortunate that we have one within a couple of miles of us. I want to use that for fresh fruits, veggies, meat, paper products, dairy, cheese, those types of things that I'm going to need to either I can stockpile with the paper products and such, or I can, the fresh foods that I can have that I'll need every week to 10 days. So that's where I want to go for those types of things. Thrive Market is an online, I call it kind of my online food pantry. Those are the staples, like I can get pasta, rice. I can also get household goods. I can get like snacks. You can do refrigerated, but you need to spend a certain amount for the refrigerated goods. And I'm like, no, I won't do that because I want to go to Costco for those things. So Thrive Market is a good one for the staples that I want to have on hand. And then Walgreens for my self-care and medications. So those are like my three main ones because they align with where I want my money to go. They align with standards. These companies have standards that I agree with and expectations that they have within their companies that align with what I think and how I feel. And then it comes to, when we think, so those are my necessities, but then, we have, gifts. I think about in the month of February that there's obviously Valentine's Day. I'm not a huge fan of the manufactured holiday. In fact, my husband and I, for many years, would buy each other Valentine's cards. And we're like, in fact, I told him I went and I was looking at cards and recently, and I really found this really cute card. I'm like, oh, I really like that one. It just really, says what I want it to say. And then I looked at the back of it and it was almost $8. And I'm like, I am not spending $8 for a card that is either going to go in the trash can or in a memory box. That just seems ridiculous to me. So I'm not going to spend money for, big extravagant Valentine's Day types of gifts. But we have grandchildren, and I know we'll get them little gifts. We like to put like a little basket together for them. And I did tell my husband that I would make a nice home-cooked meal for us. I want him to pick something that's his favorite. So I know that'll be maybe an extra expense in February that goes into that pool of money that I have for the month. And then his birthday, my husband's birthday, is at the end of February. So again, buying a gift for him. And so it's like, okay, where am I going to shop for gifts? And I like to look at small locally owned businesses. I have basically a list of small businesses that I have supported in the past, what they have, and when I want to buy a gift for someone, then I know that that's the place I'm going to go. I've also, and I talked about this in episode 131, and I'll link the website. It's called The Good Trade. I like to go there for additional ideas because, again, it's a female-run website, and they support a lot of independently owned businesses. And, again, I trust them as a source, but I also like to go and look at who they are recommending and why. For example, they did like a top 10 list of different businesses to buy underwear and lingerie. And I decided to go and look at their top 10 list, and they do. I mean, they're very transparent in talking about the criteria that they were looking at, different categories that they looked at. And then when they go through, like they had their top 10, they would go through and explain, obviously this is why this was number one. And interestingly enough, the number one business is Pact. That is already a business I support, that I've bought clothing from them before. So I was really excited to see, and even on the top 10 list, there were 3 or 4 businesses that I have bought things from that I have vetted in the past. So, that's kind of, my mindset into spending. So I have these great ideas. I know, and I think that's a lot of that can help all of us, is that by doing our homework, looking at if I'm going to, buy my fresh produce and dairy and, eggs and things like that. Where am I going to go for those things? Where am I going to go for my pantry items? Where am I going to go for my medications? And know that, and take the guesswork out of it. When we take the guesswork out of it, then it's not overwhelming. And then again, creating a list of either small businesses or that are locally owned that have gifts and things that we know that can be our go-tos, or even online businesses. So that's, really a lot of it in a nutshell, because again, each dollar that I spend is voting for the kind of world that I want. And, I am really good at talking the talk when it comes to money, but sometimes I'm not so great at walking the walk. So I've added another layer. And so if this would also help you, I invite you to do the same thing. That in my planner, with these expenditures, I put the amount of money that I have for the month. And then anytime I have made an expenditure, I put the date, I put where the money was spent, what it was spent on, and then the amount. And at times I do well, and at times I still go over. So I'm like, this is still not completely working. So I am adding 2 questions that are at the very top of the page. And I have to be able to answer these 2 questions before I make any kind of purchase. I don't even care if it's groceries. I need to be able to answer these 2 questions before I make a purchase. And I'll link them in the show notes as well. The first one, it's a 2-part. Is this important for me to buy? And if so, why? So if it's a purchase that I'm going to make, I have to justify why I'm making that purchase. That's number 1. So that's an accountability piece. The second question is, I feel like going to hit even more home with me because of the fact that my 2 big goals of paying down debt, and with my credit cards, and then the Parent Plus loan. The second question is, am I willing to be in debt longer if I buy this item? So I'll say that question again. Am I willing to be in debt longer if I buy this item? Because inevitably, if I'm willing to make that purchase, then I might not be able to pay more debt down. So the more that I save and don't go over the amount that I have set for the month, then I can use that extra to pay off more debt and get it done faster. So I feel like that those questions will help me look at the big picture rather than in the moment, because sometimes I can get caught up in the moment. Yeah, I go, yes, I'm going to buy this new book, or ooh, I'm going to get this thing and I'm going to use it for this, so I can justify it. But then when I ask that bigger question is, am I willing to be in debt longer if I buy this item? That might keep me in check even more so. Okay. So again, I just wanted to chat about, how we spend our money. And, if you're like me and get overwhelmed at times, having a plan and then obviously sticking to the plan is huge if we're going to tackle and really focus on where we're putting our money and is it aligning with our values. So until next week, I hope you let your adventure begin. Peace.